joining me now is one of my favorite elected officials. The Honorable Jen Schakowsky represents the 9th Congressional District in Illinois. She is a progressive leader in the House of Representatives. She is a stalwart fighter for Social Security and other great causes. And she joins us now. Representative Schakowsky, thanks for coming on the program.
Well, thank you so much, RJ. I appreciate the introduction. Thanks.
Well, heartfelt. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you this time around was that you sent out a letter to your colleagues recently, I would say, maybe this isn't the right way to put it, reminding them about House Resolution 393, which I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit more about, to protect and expand Social Security. And let's talk about that for a second. Why did you send that note out now?
Well, we're in an election year. That's one of the reasons, and we know that the most likely people to vote are older voters. And we need to be speaking to older voters right now and telling them acknowledging what they already know, that this is a very tough time to even think about retirement. This is a hard time to make ends meet. And so I thought, as we head into this actual election year, wanted to remind people how important Social Security is in the lives of Americans. We're talking about 60 million Americans who rely on Social Security, including 43 million retirees and 9.5 million veterans and 9 million people with disabilities, 4.4 million children relying on Social Security, without which many of those people would be living in absolute abject poverty. This has been a program that has worked for 70-some years, and we want it to go out into the future. So I have a resolution that really all the whereases talk about how important Social Security is. More than about 2/3 of retirees rely on Social Security for more than half their income, and another 10% on Social Security for just about every single thing that they can afford. And so we want to not only protect Social Security from the plans that we know that the Republicans have, and we know that Wall Street has to privatize it because it's such a huge amount of money in the trust fund. We're talking trillions, and so we want to expand as well as protect Social Security, and that's Therefore, is that the House of Representatives supports policies to protect and expand Social Security and secure its long-term future in a fair and responsible manner.
And that means the payroll cap. We have right now a payroll tax cap that is capped at roughly, now I'm going to blank out on there, $118,000 a year, give or take.
That's right. That's right. Uh-huh.
And that means that someone making $1 billion a year pays no more into the program than someone making $118,000 a year. So
I mean, think of that, especially at this time when the number of billionaires is growing, and certainly the number of millionaires. I'm not sure. I wouldn't know for sure, but I think they don't even consider themselves that rich anymore. Stop paying at $118,000 a year. It's ridiculous. I mean, clearly, if we lifted the cap on all incomes, we would never have to worry about Social Security again. But at least if we talk about raising it, there's all kinds of ways that we could make Social Security solvent for as long as the eye could see, just by that one act of changing the limitation on how much of income on which you pay into Social Security. It's an obvious and easy solution, and it's right because it asks people who make more money to pay more.
And it's also right, I would say, if I may agree with you, and we're talking with Representative Jan Schakowsky, because the only reason why there's been any issue with Social Security's long-term revenues, not the only reason, but one of the principal reasons, is because there's so much more wealth inequality than there was now than there was in the 1980s. Nobody saw it coming, and that means so much more income is going to the very top 0.01% above this limit, and that's something that needs to be rectified too, just in the name of fairness, don't you think?
Absolutely. The way that we fund Social Security, given the economic divide in our country, but also just that incomes have gone up for the rich have gotten richer, that we ask more money to be paid. But I think that isn't sufficient anymore. The Social Security benefits are so meager at this point right now. When we talk about $1,300 a month average for a Social Security benefit, less for women. I guess actually that $14,600 for all beneficiaries, but lower for women in this country. And women do tend to live longer.
Right.
And so it's really, really hard to make your way on that. And because private pensions, especially defined benefit plans, are disappearing, seniors lost a lot of money that they never have gotten back when the economy collapsed, and their money on the stock market and their 401ks and their retirement plans, many disappeared. And so Social Security is now a one-legged stool. Used to be a three-legged stool. Private pensions, savings, and investments, and then Social Security. Now Social Security is pretty much it for the majority of people who retire.
Right. And I wanted to also talk with you, Representative Schakowsky. Your Dear Colleague letter included quotes from the New York Times. And the New York Times recently had an editorial, Social Security in an Election Year, and talking about coming out in favor of expanding Social Security benefits, as you just described. I think that's a big deal. We've already done a segment on this program about it, but on the New York Times, do you think it's a big deal too?
I think it's a huge deal too, and I think again, especially for women who have traditionally, even now today, left the workplace in order to serve as caregivers. Not that they haven't continued to work hard, but what about some sort of a credit? What about some sort of a caregiver credit that could be added to Social Security benefits? What about for those people who tend to outlive any kind of pension that they may have had and savings that they may have had? So something for the oldest people. I mean, there are so many ways that we could improve the Social Security benefit, including just simply raising the amount of money that people get to make it more, make it easier to survive once you retire. The one thing we don't want to do is even have a conversation about raising the age. The age right now is 66 plus some months. And there's talk about even going up to 70 years old as a Social Security beginning age. This would really disadvantage low-income people, middle-income people. And it shouldn't surprise anybody that longevity is very closely related to working income. When you can afford all the health care that you need, all the opportunities for keeping yourself eating well and having all kinds of maybe spa experiences and etc. But if you don't have that kind of money, if you're working on your feet, if you're working in outdoors and you're working in the trades and with your hands, these folks experience a lower longevity. And so, why would we? So when people say, "Oh, well, everyone's living longer," not true. And in fact, women have actually lost. Low-income women, in particular, have lost longevity and are living shorter than they used to.
Right, and we're seeing that among white Americans with only a high school education. We're seeing those new statistics that came out about longevity in that group as well. So there's a lot to be, and I think the other thing that people tend to forget, don't they, is that when you compare our Social Security benefits with comparable benefits in other developed countries, we're pretty much close to the bottom. These, as you say, these are stingy benefits, and they need to be strengthened.
I was just hearing a report on the radio about Norway, where a child born into Norway is born into security, just in general, into security, knowing that there is a really robust safety net. Right now, I would say the idea of retirement security is so fragile. More and more people, as baby boomers retire, are understanding how difficult it is to maintain any kind of a decent lifestyle right now. And, so people are looking for jobs. They're looking to go back to work. You see people, I don't go to Walmart, but if you go into a Walmart, I understand that, there are people who are greeters, often senior citizens trying to make a few bucks here and there. And many can't. They simply can't work. They've worked hard all of their lives and aren't able to find another source of income.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I also, you spend, we're talking with Representative Jan Schakowsky here on the Zero Hour. You spend your days in Congress, and there are a lot of people on the right, a lot of people in the Republican Party who I would say they are very dedicated to the idea of American exceptionalism. We're number one. But when it comes to Social Security and some of these other things that help everybody, it's okay if we're number 30, 28. So I think it's very important for people to understand where we stand on this issue.
I agree with you. No, the United States of America right now, I would say that today families and retirees come home to a full plate of worry every single night because of the job situation, not just that wages haven't gone up at all, but as the president said at the State of the Union, about the only people who have real job security with health care and pensions are the people sitting in this chamber, referring to members of Congress. But the other thing I think people have to really keep in mind is these are earned benefits.
Right.
This is money that people have had taken out of paycheck month after month after month, and that money now belongs to them. This is not the same thing as any kind of a welfare program. These are earned benefits. And so the very idea of saying that we have to, in order to save Social Security, we have to cut it, and adding to the retirement age is a cut in benefits.
Absolutely.
And so this is no favor. But I still think it is worthwhile thinking, okay, so how can we as the United States of America, who has fallen behind other countries, now see how can we make this successful program work better for the people in our country who are facing perhaps the greatest insecurity of their lives?
Last question for you, Representative Jan Schakowsky, which is this. Polls show that expanding Social Security is a very popular thing to do. Voters want it done. We have more than 100 people in the Democratic side signing on to this expansion effort. In the House, we have, I think it was 43 out of 44 Democratic senators signing on to the Warren, I believe it was Warren Manchin, to do the same, to stand up for the same principle. Can we count on a Democratic Party this year that will run on this as a winning issue?
That is the key question. Will we make sure that at the top of the list, or at least in the top 3 of the list, that we are talking about retirement security? It is at our peril that we fail to do that. And it's certainly at the peril of the Republicans if they start talking about entitlement reform. Hang on to your wallets when they talk about that. They mean cutting Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, things that so many Americans rely on. So I'm going to be pushing continue to be pushing for us to do that, and not neglect the most reliable voters in our country, and make sure that they're hearing from us that we have been there to protect them as they found, the people who put through Social Security and Medicare, and we're going to be there to make sure that those programs are strong and getting stronger.
Well, that's a great answer, and I will just close by saying that entitlement reform, I think Republicans think reform is a synonym for destroy. And we got to fight back at that. Representative Jan Schakowsky, thanks for fighting the good fight on Social Security and so many other issues, and thanks for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure, RJ. Thanks so much.
You bet.